Hello, I'm Lizzie and this is Lizzie Reads, and welcome to another rating and exploring romance video. Today we are doing a mini round. We are doing a exploring hyped romances. So this video is a little bit all over the place because I started filming it just after we got the keys to our flat, which we are living in now. So it starts in our place at my boyfriend's parents' house, where we had very limited filming space, and it definitely didn't look like this behind me. We're going to go back to that for a little bit, and a few clips were not filmed and are being sort of made, like the discussion clips for one of the books are being filmed a little bit later, so it's a little bit rough around the edges, but the some of it is still just as normal, just as expected, but just to pre-warn you, it's a little bit of a crazy one. So yeah, let's get into the first book of the video. So originally the first book I was going to read in this video was going to be Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang, but I read the first couple of chapters and I am really enjoying it, but I just wanted an audiobook and I can't get hold of the audiobook. So the other book that I'm going to start off right now to get me back into reading, because life has been crazy, is The UnHoneymooners by Christina Lauren, and I think this is like a fake dating, they go on a fake honeymoon type thing, but the audiobook's on script, so I'm going to try and get a good chunk of this started because I just need some motivation to get me back into reading, whereas I literally barely read anything all month. So this is what I'm really hoping will get me back into it, and it's super popular. I've not heard the greatest things about it like from other people, but it is really, really popular in the sense that everybody's talking about it, everyone has read it, and I got it in the works for in a 3 for £5 deal, so it wasn't that much money. But I am going to be starting with this one. I literally have no idea about the plot. I'll see you when I have an update. Editing Lizzie here, realising that I never gave a synopsis for this, which I think probably would be useful for you. The UnHoneymooners is about a young woman called Olive and her sister and her sister's husband all feel really become really under the weather, sick with food poisoning on their wedding day, and her sister is the coupon queen. She got this once in a lifetime honeymoon trip. She won it. She was very excited about it. However, she can now not attend, and they will not be able to reschedule it. So what they're doing instead is sending their maid of honour and their best man, which is their brother and sister, and they're going to pretend to be them, and it's just about them getting a free holiday, pretending to be their siblings, but also they don't really like each other very much. So I'm 50% of the way through and it's time for a little update. It's definitely a really easy read, a really fun read. Really nice that it's got the summer vibes, which is what like didn't realize I hadn't read anything like this in a while. So yeah, I've got like the pure summer like bits and pieces going on, and I'm really enjoying it. However, it's got like some slightly dated like language, not language, it's more like phrasing. It's like not like other girls type situations, and like also like there's a little bit of like faux feminism, you know, so it's like there's a little bit of fat shaming. It's like all very internalized, and there's like a whole chunk of things going on, a lot of comparisons between women and things like that, which it's definitely better than some that I have read. Like it's not super heavy-handed, but it is like it definitely knocks some of that enjoyment level right down. And I have actually read, I'm really liking the setting, and there's not been much like smuttiness so far. It's starting to get a little bit more tense, but I'm just really enjoying it for a fun time. It had a paintballing scene, which I love. A paintballing scene in The Hating Game, one of my favourite scenes was the paintballing scene. I loved it. So yeah, I really loved that. because it just, I don't know what it is about it. It's just something that I really like, and I hadn't seen in a while in any romance books other than The Hating Game. It definitely feels very much like The Hating Game. It's very similar, and I can see why it's very popular, but we'll see what the second half has to bring me. One thing I forgot to add is, although I like a pop culture reference, aka Taylor Swift reference, there are far too many Harry Potter references in this. Very annoying, and outdated now. Also, the end of the chapters are always weird. It's like, well, what happened after that? Like, don't change the scene like that. Annoying. So I was supposed to do my hair nice and make up for this clip, but who can be bothered, am I right? I finished the UnHoneymooners last night, and I thought I'd talk you through my thoughts. I can't do that if my notebook's over there. Give me a minute. So let's get into it. We're not going to waste any time. No waffle. I took some notes while reading this because I had a lot of thoughts. Some things like that I was noticing, and I did like this. I had a good time. It was okay. It was definitely like a 3. I think the ratings come out and make it seem like it's a 3.5 stars, but for me it feels like a 3.25 stars. Does that make much difference? No, it doesn't. I'm glad I read it. I had a fun time, but it wasn't like, it didn't blow my socks off. And the question is, this is super popular, and there are reasons why I think it's super popular that I will go into, but I do think that compared to some of the stuff I have read, I'm going to talk about all these things like whilst I'm going through each of the ranking points. So I've got this ranking up for the first time, and I'm going to start with main character 1, which is Olive. And Olive I gave a 5. Olive was interesting. She was cool. She had like an interesting like job, like interest in terms of her like career path, working in pharmaceuticals, I think. It was interesting. She was interesting. I liked that she was a twin. I liked like the different, she felt a little bit cliche, and I've got here such a not like other girls girl. She was so not like other girls, and that was annoying. Again, this is a little, again, I haven't said it yet, but this is a little bit older. This word feels older to me. First published in 2019. For real. This feels like more like a 2015 kind of story. Definitely not like other girls girl. She just could have been a little bit better developed and a little bit more interesting, to be honest with you. And then main character 2, which was Ethan, I gave him 6 because he was a little bit more likable. It's not from his perspective, so it made it a little bit different, and I did like him a lot. So I gave him a 6. Together though, I gave them an 8 because I really liked their like honest openness with each other, like from the beginning and in the end. Like they were very, I like their way of speaking to each other. I found it very frank, very funny. Their banter was very good. When they were a couple, I thought, oh, this is really good, this is really fun, I could definitely root for them. But when they were separately, they didn't stand on their own as well. Like they were bolstered definitely together. And then for Spice, I gave it a whole 2.5 because it is Fade to Black. This is the key thing that I think I don't like about this novel, is that it feels, it's like the romance book, not for the romance reader. Is that like an, like it feels like a very early romance novel as we see them today. So it feels very Hating Game, which I had an amazing time with Hating Game, but it feels very Hating Game. It feels very it feels like an Adam Sandler movie. I'm sure there's an Adam Sandler movie where they go on a fake honeymoon and they fake date each other or something, a fake holiday. Just Go With It with Jennifer Aniston. It feels like that. I've not watched it. I might watch it and tell you what I think, but it feels like that. It feels like an Adam Sandler rom-com movie. It was very funny, but the spice wasn't there. The spice could have been there. It could have been there, but this is traditionally published, and like it just feels like it's like not an entry-level romance, but like I feel like a lot of people do like the non-smuttiness, and it is like saucy, like they have like a bit of flirty banter. There's a lot of talk about sex and things that they do, but it's more like innuendos, and it's more like, oh, he was good with his hands. Like, sorry, it was a bit lackluster for me. It could have been, and it would have been, there would have been some amazing smut in this, I think, but it just wasn't there. So I just was a little bit disappointed, but that's my personal taste. So this is probably really good for someone who doesn't like smut, because then it's not there, and it's still got that little bit of like something, but it's like, it's fade to black. Boo. Boo. I literally wrote fade to black. Boo. A bit of 5 for Serena Romance, because I just thought it wasn't very, there wasn't like much there, but it was pretty good. And I gave it a 5.5 attention, because there were some really tense moments, but it could have been so much more tense. Like, it could have just been so much more. That's everything that I feel about the whole entire story. Could have been more. For the third act breakup, I give it a 6, because I kind of liked it, I kind of didn't like it. Spoilers here, chapter tags down below. As usual with these videos, I'm going to go a little bit into detail with spoilers. Basically, when she thinks, so she tells her sister that she thinks her boyfriend is, her sister's husband is cheating on her, has been cheating on her, is a bit of a shitbag, general blah blah blah. I would have liked it if it was like the sister and her boyfriend, like if they both didn't believe her, like they both didn't believe her. I would have liked it if one was on her side and the other wasn't. It just felt like very like, oh, like it felt very general, something we've seen before. And but I liked that the third act breakup was about something external to them, like how they feel about each other. Actually we secretly hate each other, blah blah blah. And some of the things they said about each other wasn't very nice, and it was just like a bit like, why, just, this doesn't need to be necessary. But 9, I loved for the ending, I gave it a 9 because it's fucking hilarious. The epilogue made me laugh so much, the like way things were happening in the epilogue. Spoiler again, for the epilogue I gave it a 9, because the way she was like, oh, it's very cliche to propose on the beach, when she's like, he's obviously trying to propose, and the way they were talking was just really funny, and those are the elements of their relationship I really liked. And for fun and enjoyment, I gave it a 5, because there were lots of like casual sexism, like it wasn't like too bad, but there was a little bit there, and a bit of stereotyping, a little bit of like fat phobia internalised, which I didn't like so much. Not so much that I couldn't enjoy it, but enough that I probably wouldn't be like, oh, read this, it was really good. If I forget that it has that, I probably will do that. So if you see me saying that, say, Lizzie, you said that you're not going to recommend this because of that. It's just like, there's something else out there you can buy. And I loved, did I miss the setting? Setting and trope, I gave it an 8, because I loved the setting and the vibes, like them being in the hotel room together. But again, it could have been so much more. Everything about it could have been so much better. So it's a little bit annoying that it was the way it was, because it could have been incredible. It just really missed the mark for me, and it totally got 60 points, which is good, but not the best. So I technically did start this book for the first book in this project, but I wanted an audiobook, so I got distracted. I'm going to insert the video here of me picking this book up for the first time. So for the first book of this video, I'm going to start the Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. I had no idea what I wanted to start first for this, but this is super hyped. It's Steph's book club pick for her new romance book club. Becca from Bewitched Bex loves it, and she doesn't really love a romance book, so that makes me want to see what's going on. I probably won't give you an update till I'm a bit of a chunk of the way through, and I'll give a little bit of a synopsis then, but hopefully I love this. I'm literally only 31 pages in, and I'm liking it so far. I think it's like a fake dating vibe, I'm not sure. Still like getting to grips with it, but I'm gonna hopefully really enjoy this one, and hopefully the next clip will look less shitty. So I am 50% of the way through the Kiss Quotient, and I'm looking like a little egg, but I'm gonna do this update anyway. I'm really actually enjoying so far. The characters are really quirky, they're really funny. It's a little bit different to what I think I thought it was. Basically, the male main character, Michael, his name is Michael, yeah, his name is Michael, is hired by Stella because Stella has autism and she feels like she cannot perform in a relationship or in the bedroom, and she feels like she has to get a boyfriend and to like make her parents happy. And basically she hires Michael, who's an escort, to sort of teach her things. And it's very sweet, it's very funny. There's been a couple of odd moments. Like there was one thing that Michael said that was just so weird, just unnecessary. He said that I think she's like 30, maybe 30, maybe like late 20s. And she shows him a picture of her driving. She shows him a picture of her driving license, and he says, "How old were you there?" And she said 25, and he's like, "Oh God, you look so young. You look 18. You barely look legal now." Like it's like some big compliment. Gave me the ick, but other than that, it's going good. I can kind of just ignore it because it was just one comment, and I think I understand the intent behind it. Like, you know, women look young. Oh, it's lovely when women look young, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Very institutionalised, but it's fine. Some of the things I read, honestly, I shouldn't be judging this that harshly. Yeah, I'm gonna actually carry on reading. I've got the audiobook, which is fantastic. I decided to get the audiobook because I just really wanted to listen to it, and I haven't had much time for reading, so yeah, I'm gonna move on to reading some more now. So it's the next morning, and I finished The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang last night, and I thought I'd talk through my feelings on my rankings. I think I had a bit of a slow start to this book just because I've been really busy recently and I wasn't getting into it as much as I wanted to. And then I hit a wall yesterday where I just wanted to read it and couldn't stop. I did overall really enjoy it, and I really liked the plot and all the elements to it. I'm going to talk about them all in greater detail whilst talking through my rankings. So for main character 1, which would be Stella, as this is from Stella's perspective mostly, or Stella is the initial character. I feel like you see a little bit more of her perspective, and that is Stella. I gave Stella a 9 because I think she was a really well fleshed out character. She was a really good character. You really rooted for her. I liked her motivations and the sort of, I just liked everything about her. The reason I gave her a 9 instead of a 10 is, I think, essentially the writing kind of did Stella a slight disservice because Stella didn't have any other friends or anyone in her life, and I kind of get the point of her being like antisocial because she struggled with her autism and like how she interacted with people, but I would have really liked for Stella to have someone in her life other than her mum and Michael, who like loved her with no boundaries. I understand that her mum's a slightly more difficult situation, because like there's a lot of pressures that she gets from her mum to have be married and have kids, and I understand like not everybody has that, but has that friendship or relationship. But I feel like Stella is super likable, and I feel like Stella would, yeah, like despite feeling really uncomfortable in social situations, I feel like Stella would have a friend. I don't know. I just feel like it would have really fleshed her out a little bit more, and it would have been nice for Stella to have a confidant, and someone who she could be herself around, or someone aside from Michael. Like for example, just a colleague at work who she just had like a little bit of a relationship with, other than obviously Philip. So like for example, at the end, I think there's like a receptionist or something who was like really, like they had a little bit of banter. So something like that. It's a really nitpicky thing to pick up on, but I just feel like I would have liked that personally. And then for main character 2, Michael, I gave him a 9.5 because although he wasn't perfect, he was very, very close to it. he just felt a little bit more fleshed out and a little bit more well balanced than Stella. I think because he has like a full, you really go into his family life and his background, his history, his life growing up, where you didn't really go into that so much for Stella. So I would have quite liked a little bit more of that, I think, for Stella, like a little bit more of her, other than like her family background, other than just a little bit with her family. But I did really enjoy it, and I really, really, really liked Michael as a character. I thought he was very swoon-worthy. But yes, he wasn't perfect, but he was very close to it. And then as a couple, I gave them again 9.5 because I thought the way they interacted with each other, the like comfort between them was really perfect. I liked that they very quickly became a unit, and it was very easy for them to do so. I liked that there wasn't too many super awkward moments with them as a couple. I felt like it was they meshed very well together instantly, even when they were both like sort of struggling with the concept and the idea of what they were doing. And then for spice, I gave it 7.5 because I think the level of spice there was is understandable because of the situation and the building up to Stella like feeling nervous about sex. So I feel like that was quite understandable and definitely got it, and I thought it was sort of interesting, and the smutty scenes were good, but there were a couple that were more detailed than others, I felt. So I felt like a good even balance to make up for the irregularity of them. And like there were times when obviously they were having sex and times was speeding by quite fast. So I think like there could have been like a little bit more there. But I understand that it wasn't fully the point. But for personal preference, which this is all about personal preference, that's what I'm giving it. For swoon/romance, I give it an 8 because it's very romantic, very sweet. How like they both were like thinking, like they did have a miscommunication there about how they were both feeling, and that's okay. It felt like it fit in this situation. I just felt like the way they were with each other was really sweet, and I liked that a lot. Tension, I gave it 7.5 because I felt like the tension of the previous stalker from Michael's past really felt really tense for me. I'm just going to talk about a quick spoiler here, but they basically, I just had a feeling that ex-stalker was going to come back and that it was going to be Philip's mother, like as pretty much as soon as there was like mention of his mum, and the stalker, like when he was mentioned again after the stalker, I realised that was probably going to be the case, or it was going to be some rich white woman or rich old woman. I thought that it was probably going to be some rich old woman from like the benefit or whatever. So I really had a lot. I was expecting that, and that made it feel really tense for me. And that sort of element of things. But in terms of their relationship and the stakes, there wasn't much between them that I felt like was tense. And then for third act breakup, I gave it a 7 because I would have liked it to have been more of a low-key. I felt like it went a bit too hard, a bit too like what we normally see. I could have been a little bit better for me. And then for ending, I gave it 9 because I really, really liked the sort of wrap up and the closure, and the fact that, spoilers again, they did not talk, they did not have some grand gesture. Like I know he was sending flowers and stuff, but there wasn't like he's on a plane and he's like, I like that there wasn't that. I did take 1 point off because I felt like the epilogue was a bit shit. The epilogue wasn't great. It wasn't like a great setting. It was so weird. But yeah. And then for setting/trope, I gave it a 9 because I really liked the sort of like reverse Pretty Woman, but also like the fake dating, but they were actually fake dating. It was like they were actually doing the dating element. I loved that side of things. I gave it a 9 because I thought that was pretty good. And then for fun enjoyment, I gave it an 8 because despite like the patchy beginning, just from personal reasons, I couldn't give it any higher. But I absolutely had the best time reading this, and in total it got 84 points, and I gave it a 4.75 stars. So obviously I do talk about a lot of the negatives here, but I'm trying to figure out what things work and don't work for me, so that's kind of the point. But this definitely, for the most part, really, really worked for me, and I'm really looking forward to reading the next one in the series. So I'm just about to start book 3 of this project, which is one of probably the most hyped romances of the last few years that I haven't read. And this is about a romance writer and a literary fiction writer who are kind of like frenemies or like enemies, but they don't really hate each other. I'm not sure. And they're like in beach houses next to each other, and they challenge each other to write the other's preferred genre. That's all I know. I'm going to update you at 50%. I've got the audiobook, yay! 50% of the way through, and it's good. It is good. There's a lot of reflection, like they're really going deep into the backstory, and it's quite nice writing. I quite like it. It's very much introspective. It's a lot, but I like it. You know, it's a lot for a romance. Like, it's not quite as easy as some other romances I've read. It's still really fun, but 50% of the way through, not much movement in terms of the romance. It's a bit slow burn, but that could turn out to be a really good thing and make the payoff all the more worth it, but we'll see. Hopefully I'll finish this today. So I thought it was finally about time that I started and I spoke to you about Beach Read by Emily Henry. I'm like nearly finished the next book in this by now, but I just didn't have time to sit down and actually talk to you about it. But it's fine. We're going to talk about it now, and it's going to be a grand old time. It's going to be a grand old time. So actually, overall, I really liked Beach Read. I can see why it really captured people's attention. I really liked the writing. I liked the characters a lot. I liked lots of elements to it, but some elements felt a little bit flat for me, which I'll sort of go over in the ratings and the rankings. But overall it was really good. And the question you might be asking is, Lizzie, did you decide that you're going to buy the, I think, Illumicrate Emily Henry editions? And I've decided I'm not going to, because I looked at them again. It's hardback with sprayed edge and the same cover, and I love this cover. I think this cover is really beautiful, but I don't think I need it in a sprayed edge. I think it is equally as nice to have it in this cover, and I've saved myself some money. I am going to buy her other 2 books though and devour them, because I will have a really fun time. But let's get into the rankings. So for both main characters, I actually got the same amount, and I gave them both January and Gus 8.5, because I thought they were fairly well developed. They had like interesting backstory, they had a lot going on. Sometimes I was rolling my eyes at them and their like personality quirks, shall we say, in quirks. But sometimes I just thought, well, is it a little bit too much? Are the little individual elements amounting to be a bit silly? Are they a bit overwrought? I mean, the whole like, oh, we're searching for like human emotion, and I rolled my eyes one too many times, I think. But for a couple, I gave them 9. Yep, I gave them 9 because I really liked them together. I liked the way their relationship developed. Together they were great. Could have been a little bit better, but they were good. Just as characters, just a little bit less. Being nitpicky here, just a little bit annoying. Spice I gave 4 because it happened a bit too late in the story. Bit boring, bit short. I skimmed it. I wasn't vibing it. Just wasn't for me in many ways. Yeah, gave it 4. I thought, well, you know, this is what I've done. I'm going to tell you why I've done it. There you go. Swoon and Romance was 8 because they both are very romantic in the way that they speak, because they're very much wax lyrical about each other, which is very much what I like. And I liked the sort of like exploring dates and like analysing things that way. I liked that a lot. For tension, I gave it a 6 because for a enemies to lovers, it wasn't that tense. So yeah, so I only got 6 for tension. The third act breakup, I gave it a 9.5 because I liked the way that it wasn't too much. It was a little bit about something else, like the other subplot, but that was thrown in there a little bit, but it wasn't too much. I'm going to go into spoilers now, but that's all I can say without saying, yeah, I gave it 9.5. Basically, I liked that it was, the third act breakup was January reading her father's letters, and it wasn't so much a breakup, it was just very much like there was a distance between them for a very, very short amount of time, and it was just very much about like the emotional journey that January was going through with her father. I liked that subplot. Was it a little bit too much in the beginning? Yes, it was, but this is the third act breakup. The only 5 points I missed is because this whole like, oh, he just disappeared like for 24 hours and then whatever, like it wasn't, why is it not wrapped up? Why is it not wrapped up? Because that could have been a bit more of like a thing, like you disappeared, like I just felt like it was one sentence and it was explained. Could have been like either a little bit more in it or not at all. The ending, I gave it a 10 because for the characters, I think the ending was really perfect. The way it was just, I think it was 1 year later. Yeah, 9 months later. It was very soon after, so it wasn't like, oh, we're married, we've got kids, whatever. It wasn't that kind of vibe, which I felt really suited them. The setting and the trope, I gave 7 because they definitely underdid the acting like a romance stuff. There wasn't enough scenes to be romance novel worthy for me. Yeah, definitely missed out on that a lot, but it could have been worse. But it didn't play on the trope, the like idea that they were taking on each other's crafts enough. And then fun and enjoyment was a 7 because I had a really good time with it. There were just a couple of niggly little things that meant it just is a little bit overhyped. A smidgen. It was good though. I would definitely like Emily Henry's probably becoming like an auto buy. I know I'm gonna have a good time if the others are like this or better. They may be better. And I get, in total, that means it got 77.5, which is very high. I think I gave it a 4 or a 4.5. Let's have a look. Gave it a 4. Gave it a straight 4, which I felt like it deserved. I feel like that was pretty good. Pretty good rating. And on to the next one, eh? Should I do like a TikTok outro? Would have been good if I did that for all of them. Oh well. Probably would have been tacky anyway. Hello, so I just thought I'd let you know that I'm due to start The Spanish Love Deception by UnHoneymooners, I think. I actually don't know the author's name, but I've heard loads of good things about this. This again, it's a fake dating. The fake dating one seemed to be very popular, and that's all I know. Hate to Love, Office, that's all I know. We'll see. So I'm about halfway, and my current conclusion is it's okay, very middle of the road, enjoyable, fun, nothing special for me, but I can see how it would sort of, it's very easy, so it does sort of grab someone, and it's got that very like marketability. It's very similar to Hating Game, so it has that sort of thing that grabs everyone. The chapters are a bit long, for my liking. Yeah, it's good, it's fun, I'm having a good time with it, and yeah, that's all I can really say. Yeah, I'm enjoying it, but it is very middle of the road, I think. Yeah, I'll let you know when I finish. Okay, so the time has come where we're jumping forwards in time, and I'm talking about The Spanish Love Deception from like 3 months later, maybe two months later. It's been such a time since I've read it, and I've forgotten a lot of the details. So this part is, I wrote all of my rankings down at the time, but I didn't make any notes, and I just have completely side. I've gone somewhere with it, and I don't know where it is. I don't really know sort of exactly how I was feeling at the time, but I'm going to tell you my rankings and sort of draw on things I can remember. This bit's just going to be a bit sketchy and just going to trust me. It wasn't going to make it up there anyway. I remember that. I remember the vibes and it wasn't going to make it up there. So I gave main character 1, which was... I can't remember the female main character's name. I gave her 5, and I gave main character 2 5. The male character is Aaron Blackford, if that's his name. And as a couple, I also gave them 6. Potentially even less now because I barely remember anything about them. I think about the Spanish Love Deception, and all I can picture is the hating game in my head, like the way I pictured the hating game, because it was like, obviously it had like a completely different setting, but their relationship dynamic was very similar, I believe, to Lucy and Joshua Templeman, love of my life. No, it was a very similar dynamic, and I just don't remember it as well. So that tells you everything you need to know, I think. I gave it a 2 for spice because I thought it was very bland, very boring. Yes, I gave Swoon and Romance 4, and I also gave Tension 4, barely there from what I can remember. Very disappointing. And the third act breakup, I gave a 4 as well. I don't remember the third act breakup, and that's usually my bit that I like to remember. So that tells you everything you need to know. I gave the ending a 9, and I literally cannot tell you why. I also gave the setting a 4, and the fun a 6. To be honest with you, I can't remember anything. I'm really sorry that this one's a bit shit, but what am I supposed to do? The next one, I remember a little bit more. Good morning. It's been a little while since I've updated this vlog because I read a lot of the books before we moved into our new place, and I just wanted one more book to finish this vlog up, and I just put it on the back burner, and I have started reading it now. I'm literally only 18 pages in. I just started The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. This is in the Dreamland Billionaires series, and Dreamland is basically Disneyland, and it's like these 3 grandsons who inherit Disneyland, and they have to sort of do a little task to try and get their inheritance and keep it away from their father, who I don't know if they have a very good relationship with. And yes, it's basically a Disneyland romance, which excites me a lot. And I'm really intrigued to read it. I don't know like if it's got any tropes. I think it's quite hyped on TikTok, and I'm quite hyped to read it, so that's why I've kind of included it here. But yeah, it's been a while since I've updated in this vlog at all, so hopefully it doesn't get weird. I'm not going to do a full-blown update, but I am over 50% of the way through the fine print, and it's good. It's like okay to good, I think, at the moment. There are some things I don't like. There are some pacing things that I don't feel like are for me, but the setting and like the sort of like style of the trope is really interesting, and I'm liking learning more about the characters, and I'm liking how that sort of plays into everything. But at the moment the jury's still out, so we'll see. I've been tabbing, so I'll tell you a bit more about that in my full wrap up, I think. I'm adding this clip in now because I'm not sure if I'll remember this, but this first smut scene, which I think is quite late, but we'll get into that later. This first smutty scene is a little bit confusing. It was like the way it's being written is like it's a very light spicy scene, so like they talk a little bit about it and it's like a paragraph or 2 and then they move on, or it like not necessarily fades to black, but there's no details, so it does that, and then it gets a little bit explicit, and then it takes away, and then it draws back. The pacing is off, and it keeps taking me out the story, and it's really weird. I don't like it. I don't like it. So we're talking from the future again, but not so far ahead because it's only been a week since I finished the fine print, and I have a lot of thoughts, I have a lot of things to say, and I remember it Woohoo! That's not necessarily a good thing. So I'm going to speak through the ratings and the rankings first. So for main character 1, I gave Zahar a 6. She was okay. She was interesting. I liked her, but that was it. That was it. And for Rowan, I gave 6.5. I feel like Rowan was written a little bit more deeply, a little bit more. He was a little bit more compelling in the way that he was written. I think it was just the archetype that they used for him made it really easy to like him. And the same as Zahar, she was very, very likeable. I just feel like the effort was a lot more there for Rowan. I think because of the series being the Dreamland Billionaires. I don't know what else to say. As a couple, I like them as 7. I like that they bickered a little bit. I like that they sort of went back and forwards. There were things from each of them that I did and didn't like. So in one thing in particular, let's see what this one is here. Zahar comparing Rowan's body to her ex's body, like pretty much immediately just saying his body's nothing like my ex's. It's got quite a negative connotation. I don't know. It just gave me the ick. And also Rowan was really like, oh, I don't like talking about her exes. Like, it would just been nice if he just didn't care. Like, that would have been fun. If he was, you know, mature and didn't care for understood the fact that she had exes, especially early on. I really liked Zahar's sister, but I feel like we only saw Rowan's relationship with Annie and not Zahar. I just felt like we could have seen her a little bit more together, and I don't know, just some of it gave me the proper ick. I liked that Zahar didn't make him reveal about his past by like using the fact that he had wronged her to like push out information about his past. I liked that, but still it just wasn't anything amazing. And that as a couple, I liked them together, but not enough. Like, it wasn't anything amazing. Spice. Okay, so you'll have seen a clip where the first spicy scene happens and I was a bit underwhelmed. I felt like the spice looked like it was gonna go sort of one way, and like it looked like it was fade to black, like it was over, and then all of a sudden they were doing it, like they were still doing it, and I was like, what is going on? I was a bit confused. The writing, it was just like all over the place. I wasn't like sucked into the scene. It's pardon the pun. But I just like, it started and it was like a little bit saucy. Like, we had the lines, his eyes darken as they assess me. I'm not sure if he wants to choke me, fire me, or fuck me into submission. Like, I was like, okay, like this might be interesting. It didn't serve. After that was, I've got loads of pink tabs. What's the harm of testing out if our first searing kiss was a fluke? Just the phrasing was weird. I don't know if it was like the other things that threw me out of those scenes, because sex scenes and like smutty elements can be really, really cringy when you read them out loud anyway. But I think sometimes the when it's well balanced in the story, it's okay. There's a lot of winking. Gentle's the last thing I want to be around you. Not bad, but there was one really cringy bit I hated. Oh, in their first smutty scene, he crawls. There's a lot of crawling, and I was like, why? Can you not walk across the room? Like, I don't find crawling seductive. Oh, the globes of her ass, I didn't like that. Some just cringy chat lines. Would have been funny if I liked them better, I think. Oh, a lot of like cupping balls, and it's so amazing that he jerks across the room. I didn't really get that bit, but who am I to judge? What do I know? Oh, they did this thing that I hate. They did this thing that I absolutely hate. This is kind of like a spoiler because it's like right near the end. So in that final, like, they've just made up, they're having sex, it's the final sex scene. I hate it. I hate when they're like, I don't want to use a condom. You're on the shot, you're on the pill. Just, I detest it. I absolutely detest it, because I'm like, just grow up. Literally just grow up. Why is that always like the final scene? Like, oh my god, like you don't know real love until you don't use a condom. It's like, bore off. I'm not impressed by that. I'm not impressed by it. I don't like it. I hate it when they're like, I just want a minute. No, it doesn't suit. In like, oh my god. I might have to edit that out because I just got a bit heated, but I just don't like the whole, the like, ugh, men, ugh, ugh. Next point, let's move on to the next point. Okay. Swoon, romance 3.5. There was one bit where they went to New York and had a really nice time, and that was it. That was literally it. Tension 3, wasn't very tense. So this comes into part of the setting and trope, but really this is where I marked it down. The fact that he's the CEO of the company that she works for is not a question at all. There's no tension, there's no, like, they've got the tension, they've got the magic of the Dreamland, the Disneyland sort of vibes. They that's there for them to play with. They have the interesting work job that they talk about, that like keeps a little bit interesting and fun and enjoyment there. That's great. The tension that could be extra there, because he's like a tough cookie, kind of there, like it dissolves very quickly. He becomes a big softie within like 2 pages, I think. And also, in my humble opinion, where is the office gossip? They would know. The colleagues would know. She's not got an office. She works in a cubicle. Everyone would know. Everyone would be able to hear the things that they're saying at his desk. And where is the like gossip? Where's the tension? Where's the, oh, we're doing something we're not supposed to? Also, there could have been a whole plethora of more interesting sex scenes there. Because of that, there wasn't any. Disappointed, to say the least. I've been going on for a really long time. Third breakup, I gave it a 2 because it was stupid. It was stupid. He was stupid. And I don't, you know, sometimes the third act breakup is down to a man just being stupid. Rowan is consistently very, very consistent in his character about his precise decisions and the thing that he's doing, and he's very, very, very certain about Sahar, and then all of a sudden he's just not, and there's no build up, there's no hesitation, he's certain until he's not, and then the third act breakup occurs. There could have been a much smaller, it could have just been like external drama. If you've watched the earlier sort of episodes of this, I really love a third act breakup that isn't a breakup. I love a third act breakup that is like external to the couple. I do love a third act breakup and the beating on the windows, and that's a certain type of romance novel that has that. And I feel like this romance novel, because of the setting and the context of their relationship, it could have had an amazing external third act breakup, but it didn't have that. I was very, very disappointed. Ending, give it a 5. It was okay. All the things that leading up to it didn't make the ending feel that sweet, other than the fact that I finished the book and finished this video. Setting / trope, I had to give it a 7.5 because the creator stuff was excellent. The Imagineers is what they call them at Disneyland. The idea that about the creating the ride, it was there, it was present. The setting in that sense was really fun. It would have got 10 had the tension matched. So if they played on the setting of the office and the CEO stuff, it played more into the tension, but that definitely knocked points off here as well. And for fun and enjoyment, I gave it 7.5 because I just loved the setting so much, and there were elements that I really enjoyed, and I really liked the brother dynamic and that setup. But I think the brother that I will enjoy the most, just from a couple of sentences he said online on page, is the brother that's coming in the third book. So I'm hoping, I've got terms and conditions on my TBR for this month, which is September. So we'll see how we get on there. But I'm really, really excited to be doing some more reading. I think another thing to say is that this one in particular was one that I'd hyped so much. I was convinced, absolutely convinced that I was going to love this. I didn't. I was convinced it was going to be so good, and it just didn't do it for me, which was very disappointing. I think that's what made it fall so much, is because I was so hyped for it. So yeah, that's a bit disappointing, but we move on and let's look at the final results. So I think it's important to note that before this, I think that a lot of the most hyped romances out there, the ones that I think are worth the hype, are ones I'd already read prior to this video. So I'm looking at things like the Talia Hibberts, because I love Talia Hibbert. Well, I love the Brown Sisters trilogy. I think it's excellent. I did really like the Love Hypothesis. It wasn't without its problems, but it was very good. I enjoyed it. I'm thinking also of things like The Deal, so the Off-Campus series. I really like that series. Keep your eyes peeled, because I may be rereading it and analysing it in the same way to see if it holds up to what I first thought. But books like that I have already read, and those would have been perfect for this video. And things like in the other sort of in the earlier rounds of this, when I was just reading general contemporary romance, I read Red, White and Royal Blue, which is one of the most hyped romances, I think, and that I loved. 5 stars, one of the best books I've read this year. So I think there is a lot of different things at play when it comes to these romance. I found it very hard to pick the fifth and the romance to like follow this that hasn't sort of come before, and I think that sort of helps me realise that potentially this isn't the most accurate. I've read a lot of the hype romances that I could think of anyway, and that didn't play into other things. So there are other videos that I want to do about certain themes and certain tropes, which will be coming shortly. So yeah, I've got lots of plans for this series, but that sort of affected it a lot. But in 5th place, so the romance I thought was least worth the hype was The Spanish Love Deception by Eleanor Armas, and I can't remember anything about it. I read this book a long time ago and I cannot remember a thing, so I think that sort of tells you why I was just very underwhelmed. I didn't think it was very good. It was okay, but I just didn't think it didn't amaze me, and it only got 49 points, so that's why it is in 5th place. And then coming up just behind it with 51 is The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. Again, this one was the one that I would have put the top of this list. I thought this one was going to be on my favourite romances of all time. I thought it was amazing. This was one of the first romances I bought physically ahead of reading. So a lot of my romances books that I bought here, I've bought after reading elsewhere, because I love them. Or some of them, I only started to buy books, sort of romance books physically. Now I've been getting more into I sort of know what I'm looking for. This was one of the first that I bought ahead of time, and I thought I was going to love it. I just didn't. It was just so underwhelming. And it just goes to show that having the iconic White Horse by Taylor Swift, Taylor's version, in your playlist doesn't make Third Act Breakup any good. In 3rd place, very unexpectedly, is The UnHoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This was really fun. It was very fun, very rom-com. I think what had brought it down for me personally is the fact it's fade to black. It's like saucy but not spicy, and I that's fine. Like, it didn't mean that I didn't enjoy it. It just meant that it wasn't like my top tier romance on my level. But I definitely would recommend this to someone who doesn't really fancy any smut and finds that a bit weird. And I think the reason this is so popular is because it appeals to a wider set of readers because of that. So I did really enjoy it, just didn't hit the bar for me. Following in behind that with 77.5 is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I really liked this, it was really good, but there were a few things that just weren't as what I expected. There was a lot of side plot and like just random things happening that I just didn't enjoy. I liked the setting, I liked the characters, and I loved the way it was written. So it worked out very well for me. I did really like it. And spoiler, since this has been filmed and been all put together, I have read You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry, and I like this one so much more. This one had like, it just appealed to me a lot more than this one did. So I think I remember this one a lot more. And I actually did run it through my little system, and this got 83.5, just for your reference. And I never thought I'd feel like that about Friends to Lovers, because Friends to Lovers isn't something that I've ever really gone into before. So maybe that's something I have to explore now, as a note aside from this. But yes, it was a poor version of... The reason that I didn't like this as much as well is that the enemies to lovers was not relevant, lacking, not necessarily where it should be. So, and that leads us on to the number one book of this vlog, the one that was most worth the hype in my opinion, at 84 points, and that is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. Becca, if you're watching this, you'll be very happy, because this is Becca Bewitched Beck's one of her favourite sort of like romances. Like, she read it and enjoyed it very unexpectedly, so I was really hyped for it for that reason, and it was definitely worth the hype. It went into so much more than just the romance, and it did it well. It did the exploring other elements of life and things that people go through in a very well done way. I really liked it. I really liked the cast of characters. I loved the family members. There were a few things, like as I mentioned earlier, that just weren't there for me, but it was still very good. I think I rated it like 4.5 stars, which I think is a pretty good rating. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching this. I know it's going to be a little bit all over the place, but hopefully with a bit of editing stress, because it's not magic, it's pure stress when it's me, then you will enjoy this video. Thank you so much for watching it, and I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.